months ago, Christine and I went down to Lubbock and talked to the Cap Rock Writers Group, our like sister writers group in Lubbock. And they are also involved in putting on the conference, so we love that we're getting an opportunity, be careful, to expand that partnership and to be more involved with them. And I was down there helping rouse some interest from their membership, and Lauren said, oh, I do speaking about writing. And I said, fantastic. I need people to come and speak to our group. So Lauren Cassel, Brownell, is an award-winning author and playwright based in Lubbock. She is best known as the author of the self-help book Zen and the Art of Housekeeping. I think she has it up here for sale today if you are interested. And the cozy mystery Dying to Donate. You got your little bookmark with both of these, and she has both available for sale today. The first book in her Murder You mystery series. In addition to her books, Lauren has also written 2 produced plays, Leave It to Me and Swimming the Witch, as well as articles and essays for publications around the world. Her latest passion project is a course and accompanying workbook titled Happier, Healthier Aging Through Writing. It focuses on the mental and physical health benefits of writing for mature adults. Now, what do you mean by mature adults?
18 and over.
18 and over. Like, and provides a path for developing your own writing journey. Lauren is a dynamic, engaging speaker, as you can already tell, that brings topics to life through storytelling, humor, and creativity. When not writing, Lauren serves as the marketing director of the College of Education at Texas Tech University. She lives in Lubbock with her family. So we're excited to hear from her this morning. Lauren, come on up.
When I met her in Lubbock, I knew we were kindred spirits, and we just kind of, made eye contact and connected. I'm a goofball. I like to have a lot of fun, and I definitely am here. I am not going to talk at you. I want to talk with you because I'm here to learn too. Because I agree, our folks said it this morning, if we ever stop learning and growing, the party's over. And that's whether as a writer or just as a human being. So it's like we have to keep growing. So let me tell you a little bit about this. Okay, questions. Who here considers themselves to be an experienced writer? And that can mean whatever you want it to mean. Who considers themselves a new writer, new to this whole game, but excited? Awesome. Okay. Who are nonfiction writers? Okay, mostly fiction, huh? Mostly fiction. Poetry. I heard a poetry passion over here. Okay. Well, I've got a little something for everybody. If it will get on a piece of paper, I will write about it. And that's just one of my philosophies. It's kind of a philosophy of my life. But I've also found it has really served me well as a writer. I have been writing since, the first thing I remember writing was when I was 8 years old. My mom was finally going to give me a little brother, and so I wrote this wonderful story about this family of lions, and the mom lion had a baby on the way, and that was the first thing that I really remember thinking about actually writing. Happier, Healthier Aging writing is a relatively new project for me, and I wrote it with the intention of it being for genuinely mature, 50 plus. I have done courses. That was really what I started it out as, was kind of a course-based thing, because it's like, as I'm getting older, I realize how valuable having this hobby, passion, interest has been to me. My husband also pursued a second career later in life and became a gerontologist and wound up getting his PhD in gerontology. He had a passion for working with the elderly. And so we talk, we hang out a lot. We talk, and I heard him talking about the things that scientific research was finding that could help people age better. There's so much struggle with dementia, with Alzheimer's. We are all popping pills for everything. I thought, could there be a prescription that would help us? And so I started reading research on creativity in writing and its connection to healthy aging. And I couldn't believe there was so much out there. And I was like, this is something I want to use in my own life, but it's also something that I want to share with others. And when Karen and I talked, it was really something that kind of sparked in my mind, honestly, on that day, is anybody in this room getting younger?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
Karen is getting younger, but the rest of us, we're all aging. None of us are going backwards. The earlier that we start implementing practices and focusing on how we can improve as we age, the happier and the better it's going to get. So that's kind of behind this. So I'm going to share the presentation that I do in my classes for older folks, but I'm going to couch it in terms of how it can help us as writers. And my thought is, no matter how long we've been writing, I think some of us, tell me if I'm wrong, we tend to get into our own little habits. We tend to get into our own little, this is how I do it, this is what I do, I don't want to hear anything else, well, so I thought, let's revisit, what would I tell somebody that was just starting out? And how would I take that and say to an experienced writer, are you in a rut? Do you have a writer's block? Are you just pissed off and fed up half the time and don't want to do it anymore? Has anybody ever just said, I'm never writing again? No? Never?
No, that's the opposite. No, somebody that says no, don't want to write anymore. No, I'm not that.
I love that.
I'm not that.
About once every 6 months, I'm like, I'm never doing this again.
And like a day.
Right. And then you take a shower and you're like, oh my God, I have the best idea. And by the way, I had an idea this morning. I have already put notes down for my submission for your anthology. It's called Zen and the Art of Making Lemonade Out of Lemons. Be on the lookout for that. Inspiration's everywhere. That's another one of my things that I live by. And I'll tell y'all a funny story when we get to that part of our presentation. Please stop me and ask me questions. Again, I'm here to talk with y'all, and I'm here to I don't know you guys, where you are in your journey, so it's like, ask me anything. Stop me anytime. I have been traditionally published. I've been self-published. I've done playwriting. I have written for magazines. I've written for newspapers. I was a newspaper food columnist. Best gig ever. Y'all remember newspapers, right? My husband and I met in the newspaper business. That's why he went on to a second career. So, that's that. So this is kind of my loosey-goosey, what we're going to talk about today. And again, those of you that are more experienced, think about, can you use some of these tips to rethink things, refocus? For those of you that are new, take what makes sense to you, throw the rest out. My first rule of writing is there really are no rules. That's the Brownell school. You find what works for you, but these are things that are kind of tried and true, work for a lot of folks, and you can take them and you can adapt them. Foundation and motivation, building your writing practice, exploring forms and sharing stories, and then resources. Okay. And we're off. I was at the speakeasy at the Barfield last night. Got a little dry mouth, so. The bad news is time flies. Except for Karen, we're all getting older. The good news is you're the pilot. There are some things that there's some hands that we're just dealt in life. There are some issues that occur, things that we just can't do a darn thing about. But I just try to think about those as little as possible and think a whole lot more about the things that I can do. I am heading into old age in a few decades with thinking that I've got, y'all work with me, come on. Thinking that I've got a lot of control. What I'm finding, and I'm so glad as I'm maturing, my life has been so full, as all of ours are. The decades seem to have been about things. Now that I'm in my, I have got so much more, I've got time finally.
Yeah.
I've got smarts finally. I've learned a few things, you know, over the years, and it's like I'm feeling more free and more creative and more ready to really get into this writing phase. You know, it's like I've had some real fun, some real successes, some things that I'm really proud of, but I'm really excited about what's coming because I've got time and energy to focus on it. Oh, I also want you to notice that my knee, I call this a writer's injury because I walk around with my head in the clouds all the time. That would make a good story for the blog. So yeah, I got in a fight with the sidewalk because I was thinking about something else. So just.
Yeah, the sidewalk one.
Huh?
The sidewalk one.
It beat the crap out of me. I mean, that's the visible injury.
Yeah,
I thought this was, the thing that I like to think sets my work here apart is that just because of my background, because of my exposure to my husband with the PhD, I really do try to ground this in science. I want you to know that there is scientific research. That is not just me saying, woo-hoo. There's been a lot of study on this. I just thought this was, if I had 10 minutes to speak, I would probably say this would be the book that I would share. The inside of aging cannot be captured by statistics, only by stories. We go to the doctor, they check our blood pressure, they check our weight. My doctor is obsessed with my A1C level, but whatever, you know, I'm more than that. It's the stories that I can tell. I'm more than that. We're all more than that. So again, here we start out. I have a room full of my mature friends, and they are wanting to write for the first time. And so I say, why? Why do you want to write? And that seems like a really simple question, but I think it can help us, even as experienced writers, if we go back and say, why did I start on this adventure? What is it that motivated me to begin with? Was it that you had a story to tell? That you wanted to become I know Jody Thomas is one of you. We can't all be Jody. One of my first classes, and my class members were 55 to 85. I was really astonished because a couple of them were like, I may be 83, but I want to make some money. And I'm like, well, good for you. Let's see what we can do, you know. And that's okay. In my opinion, whatever your why is fine. I find with my older folks, often it is to leave a legacy. They are also very interested in memoir. And I mean, it makes sense why. You know, you get to a point in your life where you're like, I've really got something that I want to share, you know, I need to tell this. But whatever it is, wherever you are in your journey, think about it. A lot of the times when you're having those days, those 24 hours where you're like, I will never write again as long as I live, your why can help remind you what it is that keeps you going. So the workbook, I wanted the workbook to be finished. I'm kind of like y'all, it's at the printer. In the workbook that I've created to go along with this class, after each one of these sections, it has writing prompts, and it says, set your timer for 5 minutes and think about this, or, you know, whatever, the nature of what we're talking about. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the science. And there's a lot of it. This is an actual picture of my brain, so. Individuals who write about past experiences show statistically significant improvement in various health measures, including reduction in visits to the doctor and better immunofunction. Tapping into your creativity, letting it be a part of your life, can actually keep you healthier and out of the doctor's office. So it's not an apple a day. It's a 10-minute writing session a day, keeps the doctor away. If this topic interests you, man, I am thirsty. James Pennybaker, he is now a professor emeritus at the University of Texas, but he was one of the pioneer researchers into the field of writing therapy. This is his bag, and he has some really interesting books out about journaling, writing, and how the impact that it can really have. He went so far as to study like linguistics and how our use of language will show sometimes the determinations of how we'll age based on language. It's really fascinating if you're into that kind of thing. Less visits to the doctor, immunofunction. Creativity opens later life to growth, meaning, and joy. Again, later life can be tomorrow. I'm not just talking about old folks, right? When is later? It's now. And so I think writing, if we're doing it right, if we have community, it brings growth, meaning, and joy to all of us. And that's why we do it a lot. That's why we rely on groups like this. Okay, psychosocial and biological manifestations. Enhances mood. Allows you to experience, process emotions more healthfully. Who has not just been pissed and sat down to write it out, or been sad and sat down to write it, or been, oh my God, I had the most incredible experience, and I want to get it down on paper. I don't want to forget. Reduces stress. Who doesn't need that? Decreases depression. Yes, please. Alleviates the burden of chronic disease. Can help heal emotional injuries. I will make a caveat here. I did talk about this subject with a group of licensed professional counselors, and one of the things that I do want to express, I am not a counselor, nor do I play one on TV. I did not say Holiday Inn Express, I say it's Barfield. So if I'm in a group and we're talking about things and things get too heavy or too deep, I'm going to be the first one to say, I'm not qualified to help you through that. But I want you to find a resource that will, because we've tapped into something that's really, really important, meaningful to you. So I'm not going to go too far down the emotional injury path with anybody except me. Increases understanding of self and others. Lordy, yes. Amen. There's a whole field now of narrative gerontology, which I think is just fascinating. That we should all think of our lives as a story, and that we, as human beings, are storytellers, and that focusing on aging with a narrative is one of the healthiest things that we can do for ourselves. Just amazing. I was like, why didn't I know this? Engagements in pursuits such as creative writing supports brain function, prevents frailty, increases social participation. There's depression, anxiety, stress, yes, and increases self-esteem, confidence, and a sense of purpose. Reading and Writing for Well-Being, the Journal of Counseling and Research. Again, I just want you to, all of these are cited. These are the publications, the scientific peer-reviewed journals that I found this information from. And I'm happy to share any of those sources with you if you want to read more. And even more science, my God. Creative activities have been shown to lower blood pressure, reduce cortisol levels. That's that stress hormone that courses through us. When we're tapping into our creativity, to our voice, when we take a deep breath and sit down to write, lowers our cortisol levels. Other research, I don't think I have it quoted here. They're showing now that writing and tapping into that creative force in us can actually create new brain synapses. When you're trying to think of the perfect word, when you're trying to think of the hook for that next chapter, you can actually create new places that are going to other places in your brain. And God knows I need that now, but I hope I get good practice now so that I can maybe do a little bit more of it. as I continue to age. Working memory. It is a resource and a protection factor. Healthy aging is not just the absence of disease. This is kind of one of the premisi of gerontology at this point. It's not just about not getting sick. It's about doing the work to stay healthy and actually improve and live at an optimal level. It's not just, good Lord, don't let me get cancer. It's let me work to make myself healthier and better able to function for the long haul. So that's, I think, interesting. This was an article called Creativity and Humor in the Elderly. I thought this was so funny. Who knew? The parts of us that are creative are also the parts of us that can find humor and make jokes. Those parts of our brain are very, very connected, which I think is part of why we as writers are different. We just are tapping into something. It's like, well, woo, So creativity and humor, closely linked. So that I just thought that was, keep that in mind, Find the funny wherever you can. Okay. Questions? Comments?
I have a question. You cited a lot of research talking about the power of creativity for your health, particularly cognitively. Have any of the studies compared specifically writing to other types of creativity? Like, is there a benefit of writing in particular?
The reason, okay, that's a great question. Creativity as a whole is very protective of your health. The thing about writing that makes it particularly beneficial is, again, we go back to Pennybaker, talks about like that linguistics, that use of language, and the fact that a lot of people, as they lose memory function, dementia, Alzheimer's, a stroke, one of the first things that goes is that processing language. So the benefit of writing particularly is the utilization of not only that creative process, but also of language. And then Pennybaker also dives deep into the specific components of writing as a benefit. So yeah, the other thing as we age, one of the things that I love about writing is it's free. Nobody can stop me. I don't have to go to the art store. I mean, we all know we're addicted to pens and journals and all. I mean, I know. We all spend, I know. We all spend a fortune on our writing supplies, our books, but we don't have to, right? Nobody can stop me. It's free. It's accessible. It's something that you can share with others. It has all these benefits that are so easy to access regardless of your physical capabilities, your bank account, whatever. So, but yeah, there is research that directly correlates writing and its benefits. Other questions? Okay. I think there are 6 or 7 of these. These are kind of the big 7 in gerontology, geriatrics today. One of the studies that my husband did was on superagers, people who live into their 80s, 90s, and 100s. Superagers were shown to do this stuff. And this was the thing that really made me go, I can relate all that stuff to being a better writer. And I went, well, I'm on to something here. Maintaining a nutritious and balanced diet. I'm not here to tell you what to eat. I did not get the 18-hour figure, eating carrot sticks. But I think as writers, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm alone, am I alone in this, that people think I'm weird? No. I find when I'm writing hard, when I'm stressed, when I'm trying to make connections, it is the Twinkie that is screaming, baby, come and get me. Mm-hmm. It is the coffee. It is the crap. I was on deadline for Zen and the Art of Housekeeping, which was my book that was traditionally published, and so it wasn't like, oh, sorry, I'm a little bit late. It was, you get it here, it's over. You're sending your advance back. Well, I'd already spent the advance. So I had to meet the deadline, right? And I have pictures, my daughter was 4 at the time. I have pictures of her sitting on my shoulders eating a bag of Cheetos because I needed to keep her busy and happy. And it's like, give mama a Cheeto. You know, so it's like she's eating Cheetos, I'm breeding her crap, I'm eating crap, trying to stay on deadline. I've learned over the years, most of us have had this experience, dadgummit, when we eat better, we feel better. When we feel better, we're more creative. If we wanted to make a gazillion dollars, we would find a way to make healthy junk food and label it like writer's grub or something. Writer's fuel, here it is. It's chocolate, it doesn't count. I mean, I hate it, but it's true. I know it's true. Engaging in regular physical activity. Again, one of those we know we feel better. The thing that has finally worked for me and gotten me off my butt and out on the road is I use walking time as creative time. My older folks in the classes, they said, and they're so funny because it's like, for the first time, I gave them permission to do stuff that nobody had ever given them permission to do. They're like, can I like record into one of those things? That's cheating though, isn't it? I'm like, no, that's not cheating. Get your phone and you record into your little recorder thing while you're out walking. I like to listen to podcasts. I write nonfiction and fiction. You can get inspiration for both in podcasts. I just kind of like to put my earbuds in and hit the road, and I just think, and I listen, and I think about new ideas, and make new connections. So that's how I finally said, okay, I'm connecting this physical fitness to my desire to have more time to write and research and read. So see if that works for you. Nurturing spiritual coping mechanisms. To me, the very nature of writing is like a conduit to whatever is your higher power. I think it is such a spiritual enterprise, and we can talk more about that or not, but for me, it is when inspiration hits, when you have that moment, when you make a sentence and you go, God, oh, that's so good, or God, oh, that's so bad. Please, God, help me make this sentence better. But the very nature of writing, I think, and it allows you to look at how you feel about things, anything, and your spiritual connection, how you feel about your place in the world, is something I explore a lot when I sit down to write. Effectively manage stress and anxiety. Ensuring sufficient sleep. This pisses me off, okay? And I'll tell you why. If somebody tells me, if another doctor tells me, well, you really need to get quality sleep, do you think if I could sleep through the night that I would not? I have a big issue. I don't sleep much. Y'all can tell that I don't sleep much. I want to sleep. I try the sleep hygiene, the this, the that. I don't want to take medicine to have to sleep. So I'm continuing to look for the secret to getting a good night of sleep. But it is important. Quality sleep helps refuel, rejigger that part of our minds that's creative, that deep REM, that rejuvenative sleep that allows us to have new ideas and make new connections. That is where it takes place a lot, is in good quality sleep. People who are creative tend to have richer dream lives. Have you ever woken up and said, oh my God, I wrote the great American novel in my sleep. Where's my, I hate that. It just goes out the window. You wake up and you're like, oh, it's so good. But you have that brief moment, where you're like, Danielle Steele, you better watch it. Holly Neighbor, I'm coming after you, sister. I had a good dream last night, and then it's gone. But for a moment. Social engagement. Studies are showing that the most powerful aging mechanism of all is social connection. I find as we get older, it's harder to make friends. You just don't have, you go to work and you go home. It is so critical though for us to continue to strive to make social connections. And I think writing is a great way to do it because you have places like this. And if you don't have places like this, you find places like this, you make places like this. If you're going to be a good writer, and it's really hard, you have to share your writing with other people. It can't just sit in your head or on your desk.
Correct.
Find like-minded people to share your writing with and to share your life with, to share your friendship with. So funny, Mathis and I are both cat writers. I walked in this morning and my heart I said, oh, there's Mathis. And it was a human connection. It was somebody that I knew, and I was like, this is so good, you know? And now I have a whole new group of people that I see your faces, and I want to know what you're writing. That's what just is the worst about coming and speaking to a group is you want to get to know them. And I'm like, I'll just stay the afternoon. I'll come over to the bar field, we'll sit and we'll talk. But if you don't have connections, this group is fantastic. Take it to the next level. Find people to share your writing with. It's so important. Prioritizing overall well-being, enough said, right? Okay. All right, so did y'all know there was so much scientific research? Is this new or does it make you go, okay, I'm buying in. I knew it made me feel better. Are you buying? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Okay. If writing is the prescription, how do I take it? I'm not going to go through I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV thing again, but I'm not, okay? But I have a theory that a lot of the problems a lot of people are having as they get older are because they are being overprescribed medication. And that is just my personal opinion. I think we get prescribed medicines and then we have side effects from those medicines, and then they prescribe us something to fix that side effect, and it's this endless cycle. My grandmother at 90, I think she was 96, and her doctor told her that she had high cholesterol. Wanted to put her on a statin, and she said, I am 96 years old. I have eaten a pound of bacon, and I have eaten a pan of biscuit. Not biscuits. It was singular. A pan of biscuits was biscuit. I don't know why, but now I actually still call them biscuit. I have eaten a pound of sausage and a pan of biscuit every day. I'm not taking your little fancy pill. Thanks, but no thanks. Hard work, clean living, But anyway, so if this is a prescription, the cool thing about writing as a prescription is it's free. You take it every day, once a day. It has no side, you can take it 3 times a day if you want to, but at least once a day. It has no side effects. I mean, what could be better? That's the kind of prescription that I want to take. How am I doing on? I'm good. I may get through this. I sometimes don't. I get excited. So I say building a writing practice. This is what I tell when I do my classes. I'm like, if y'all want to take this prescription that Dr. Brownell is prescribing, here's how you do it. You start a writing practice. Doesn't have to be hard. These 5 keys to building a writing practice. Again, as writers who have been writing, I encourage you to think about, because this is one of those do as I say, not as I do. I know this is, y'all, at least I'm honest, right? I know this is what my days should look like. Not every day does. But if you want to build a writing practice, write every day. Read every day. Create a space for your writing. Develop rituals around your writing. When I'm really on a tear, or when I'm on a deadline, or when I'm really working on a project, and I encourage everybody to do this. I think Gal over here does, because she's notebook pen freaky weirdo. She's got stuff that she is her stuff, right? I know, I see you. My son, who is also a writer, did I want to breed a writer? No, I did not, but he is. He bought me this Ms. Wright mug at the drama bookstore in New York City, which Lin-Manuel Miranda is a part owner in, and has done all kinds of book-to-do stuff. And so when one of my rituals is if I'm going to drink coffee or tea or whatever, or pina colada, I put it in my Ms. Wright mug when I'm writing. And it just makes me feel, it gives me a connection to him. It's that social connection. It just, let the spirits of my ancestors, move through me or whatever, but this is one of my rituals. And I find people who really dig into the ritual thing. It's like when you light the right candle and you put on the right music, they say, again, I've not done it successfully enough to truly see the benefits, but they say it makes it quicker for you. You're more able to get refocused for a writing session if you do that. Getting things arranged, whatever your ritual is, whatever's meaningful to you. This mug is meaningful to me. Karen is aging backwards, so it might be Legos that are important to her. You know what I mean? And then we kind of already have hit on this. Share your writing with others. And I would love to open up the floor because it's like, do y'all do these? Do y'all do this?
Well, was it last meeting where we had to meet other people to create a writing group? And we did.
Awesome.
We did.
Good.
Can I call somebody out, have them share?
This is where
Kim, you told me about your writing ritual that I know you specify to what you're writing, and I find it fascinating. Can you share?
Well, so, if I'm, right now, the books that I'm writing are set in 1945. And so, I might listen to some music with, from that era, but I like to, what kind of smells would you smell? And I will put essential oils in my diffuser that will have those smells.
you are my hero.
But you can get black pepper or or a citrus, depending on where it's set. Right now I'm in Spain, and so.
And there you are. That's amazing.
So just things like that, and if sometimes in the course of writing I have been in some of the books there's been food involved. If I will get something that tastes like that, or at Christmas put some peppermint in my mouth and suck on that while I'm writing, and just stuff like that just kind of pulls back, puts me there.
Not really. Okay, y'all. When you say, okay, I'm going to be gutsy and I'm going to put myself in front of people and talk about, I'm an expert on anything, you have people that make you feel like total ass. You're like, oh, I never even thought of that. Oh. So y'all just take it easy on me here. I'm humble. I am a big fan of developing a Spotify playlist that has music of that era. That's something I was smart enough to do.
I've heard my friend listens to audiobooks on Spotify, and now some of the writers are sharing their playlist of these are the songs for this character and things like that. So incorporating that other art form.
Y'all, okay, we've got a marketing thing, but let's go there. That is brilliant. I mean, that is brilliant. And I had a woman that I didn't know, a friend of a sister-in-law, somebody's dog, whatever, said, oh, Lauren's a writer. I know you're writing a book. Send your stuff to her. Y'all get that? It's like, oh, you're a writer. Here, deal with this or help my friend.
Will you write my story?
Yeah. No. I got my own problem. But she sent a book to me on grieving. She had lost her husband prematurely. And it was a spiritually focused novel. And in the book, at the end, she used lines from different hymns that had been meaningful to her. And she's like, what can, she wanted me just to look at it, edit it, whatever. And I said, it's wonderful for the audience, for the demographic that you're trying to appeal to. If I were you, I'd put every one of those hymns in a playlist, and I would share the link in the back and forefront of that book. And it's just one more way to connect with your readers, because to let them listen to the things that you're listening to and feel the things that you're feeling. I mentioned my son being a writer. He has written a musical that is based on the life of Huey Long. Does anybody out here in West Texas know about Huey Long? Mythical, a true mythical figure in Louisiana politics during the Depression. And so his musical infuses a lot of those Cajun influences and bluegrass music. And so when he wants to talk about Huey, we listen to the playlist, and we get all we're from Louisiana, I don't mind, it's okay. What you got?
Yes, I was just going to say, I'm in a critique group with Kim, and I can verify that when we read her stuff, we're always saying we feel so in this era. She does the clothes, the music, the cocktail,
The word choice.
Yeah, the word choice.
It's not linguistics again.
And everything, so it works, super duper works. It
Yeah.
does.
I'm not sure who to ask the question of. It's like, okay, so, I'm just speechless, right? It's like, okay, I've got to go. I've got to go write. Which I will tell y'all a funny story. Do you think it's her, she's smelling those smells and she's thinking those things, and does that give you the ability to write it better, more clearly, more?
So a lot of things that I do too, besides all of that, is like I will cast the book in 1945 Hollywood. So if I've got Gregory Peck, or if I've got, and then I just imagine, okay, what would he say? If she says this, what is his automatic response?
Yeah.
If he's got Cary Grant, that's a whole different
Right.
response than Gregory Peck.
Right, absolutely.
So I think
That's neat.
that's, that's a lot of it.
Yeah.
Just kind of, I just feel immersed and see it as
And
if,
it comes across.
as if
That's so
Cecil B.
cool.
DeMille has made
That's so
this
cool.
movie already.
That's so cool. I love it.
You talk about, I don't want to it all, but
Please. Kim put me to shame. Go ahead.
talking about research backing on all of this.
Yeah.
There are a lot of visualization studies, like research around visualization, and using the five senses really helps create those synapses like you were talking about.
Right.
And I think that has a lot to do
That's
with
a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talk about like tapping into creativity and finding the words, but yes, it is a sense thing. And as we get older, sadly, some of our senses get a little bit dulled. So it's like trying to really bring that back around to make our writing richer, our thinking richer. I think that's just fantastic. You just got itchy ear?
Well, I'm toying with the question.
Well, you want me to come back?
Now we're all curious what your question is.
Ah.
Okay, I write a lot of nature, I write a lot of what people think is fiction about my younger life, which is not fiction.
Those are the best kind.
They don't believe it's not fiction. But anyway,
We're going to talk about that? You don't want to?
fairly recently, I've lost most of my hearing.
Mm.
And when I say most of my hearing, it's really weird because I can't discern the speaking voice.
Mhm.
I can hear it, but I don't have a clue what's being said. If you watch me, I'm reading lips.
Okay.
anyway,
Okay.
Which I didn't know I could do. But all I'm doing is taking the sound and putting them to the lips.
Sure.
I've got an AI hearing aid that is assisting this ear that Phil has.
Mhm.
And then I've got to, pretty well this one I don't hear out of.
Gotcha.
So, how do I put the voice back in my writing?
Gosh,
I can't hear it.
that's a beautiful question. I think that I mean, there's a couple of approaches. I think you maybe try some tapping into some other sensory things and making those richer. But in nature, I think about the sounds of nature and trees rustling and birds. I think you have to just take yourself back in time and play that movie in your head.
I'm kind of doing that. We're going places now. My wife and I have just decided that someday is now.
Amen.
Recently, we decided, and I think of this wake-up call, and now I'm an adjunct instructor at AC, and which I never thought I'd say before
Right.
in my life.
Yeah.
I'm an auto mechanic.
Yeah.
Now I'm an adjunct instructor at AC.
Okay.
And
Amazing.
right in the middle of trying to do class and lectures, all this happened to me. And if you want to write about your dreams, get on a steroid type. I have
Welcome to
written
Crazy
poetry.
Town.
I have written poetry with Robert Frost.
Yeah, you
and
have.
Sandberg. In Niagara Falls. Anyway, but you know, what do I do now? And I'm doing a lot of what you're talking about right now. Okay.
Can I make a,
Damn it, Karen, get up
It's not about
here.
me.
can I make one suggestion though?
Sure.
I think about people with hearing loss or hearing deficits, and they feel the music with the beats and the vibration. And I have headphones that are bone conducting, so you actually feel it through your phone. So maybe that's a way that you can, in your own rituals, to connect to that voice and that sound, is somehow tap into that vibrational.
Listening to motors and engines
Yeah.
all these years, I can get mind pictures of what's going on.
Yeah.
Actually, and you're talking a screwdriver put right to your cheekbone, you can hear what's going on inside that motor.
Yeah. So can you apply that to the other places
I
that you
think
need?
so.
Yeah.
It's just a learning curve
Sure.
that I'm building into I'm just now starting.
Okay, have you started your turning lemons into lemonade piece yet?
Some story prompt, maybe Granddaddy Mouse story. I might be able to turn that in. And I'm going to cheat. I'm going to put my poetry in the middle of the story.
That's not right. Yeah, I started out and I said, what are the rules of writing? There are no rules. So, I mean, they'll be flexible. I'll watch
I'm probably just taking you off of your train of thought, and I apologize.
No, because that's,
I think you're addressing a lot of the stuff, what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And I've heard you speak of that before too.
yes.
And it's making a lot more sense now.
Yeah. I think an unutilized sense, and I think for writers, we think about what we see and what we hear. I think tactile things are very cool, and we don't talk about them. How do things feel? What does a tree bark feel like, and what does wind blowing? We all know that, right? We live in West Texas. What does that feel like? And I think people don't think that that's important to them, but I think if you read a writer that really does tap into, I felt a piece of a puppy's fur or a fabric and it was silky versus it was nutty. That's a really cool sense that you start to think about what period in time was that fabric made. Okay, so that we don't, no, you did not take me off my train of thought. That's why I'm here, because I want to hear what y'all think and what you feel. And I'm going to the essential oil place on the way back to Lebanon Saturday. Tactile. I'm over at Barfield, right? We get on the elevator. I'm tired. Got up and doing graduation ceremonies at Texas Tech, exhausted. I'm like, let's just get to the speakeasy. We get into the elevator, and I go to the back wall of the elevator. Have y'all ridden the elevator in the Barfield? It is fire!
It's cowhide and it's beautiful.
My husband turn around and act right. It's her, you know? So I think that I think tactile means something to me, and I think that's going to be one of my goals, is to incorporate maybe more of some of that. But no, and please share. We're here. I said I came to learn from y'all as much as to learn from me. Thank you for, you just work around it, and you don't let it stop you,
Well,
is the bottom line.
I just come with, it's who I am.
Yep.
But it's rather, it's sudden hearing and center ear, sudden inner ear has to do with the bones syndrome. And it can leave just as quickly as it comes.
Well, and if it were to
To
leave,
reach up and go, hear a pop, and all of a sudden,
that'd be so weird. But if that were to happen, you probably would have found positives, if you're the man I feel that you are, you would have found positives about the change, and you would have to readjust going back to being able to hear everything. Wow. Oh, God, I love talking to people. Okay, another thing, I had one of my very first Happier, Healthier Aging classes, I had a gentleman that was completely deaf. And he told me he was deaf. Did he tell me he was deaf? He did not tell me he was deaf when we started. And so they had set up the room in this classroom style, which I hate. When I walked in this morning and it was this view, I was like, yeah, because I want to be with everybody. And he sat up in the front, and he did look at me closely, but that didn't bother me. And so when we took a break, he came up to me and he said, I'm deaf, and I'm reading your lips. And he's like, you're a really good, clear speaker. I got everything that you said. But he said, but I can't hear the people around me. I said, participating, and I said, oh, hell no, we don't take care of that. And so we moved that place into a circle. And I told everybody as we started into the second section of that night, I said, Andy's going to be reading our lips, so you make sure that he can see you. And it just opened up this whole new world for him. And it also opened up a whole new world for the folks around, saying, he's dealing with something that I don't know about, and I want to make sure that we deal with this together. And it was just awesome. So thank you for sharing. Oh, the Barfield. Okay. I was also recently diagnosed with ADHD. That is true. Which I was like, duh. I mean, you know, I went to some colleagues one day, and because I was reading an article about ADHD, and it's like, you know, here's some symptoms. And I was like, yep. And so I went to some friends that I work with closely, and I said, y'all think I have ADHD? And they're like, well, yeah, Lauren. I mean, you thought you knew. I did not know. I knew life had been really hard sometimes. But anyway, so that's been an interesting, it's been a lemons into lemonade thing. It's not a weakness. It's a superpower. I just have to learn how to work with it.
Maybe that's your anthology submission.
Zen and the art of turning my ADHD diagnosis into, yeah, maybe. Maybe. Speaking of ADHD, do y'all love this little vintage thing? I saw this at an art show, and a woman had all of her jewelry and stuff, and I'm like, I bet you that would work great for books. So this is my first outing with my little suitcase. Just pop it closed. Okay. My first book in the Murder You Mystery series is Dying to Donate. There is the first chapter of the next book is in the back, which if you don't do that, do that. Makes it hard because you got to think ahead, which is not obviously my strong suit, but sure is a great marketing tool. So the next book in the Murder You Mystery series is going to be Sigma Delta Die. Dying to Donate is not about organ donation. It is about a university. Nobody lost an organ. Nobody. I work at a university, and I've worked in higher ed now for like 12 years. And I found myself going home at the end of the day and being like, you know, you cannot make this stuff up. Somebody should write a book. So I did. Higher ed is its own little closed world, which is what we look for when we write cozy mysteries. So Sigma Delta Di is going to development and fundraising at the university level. You want to talk about a trip to crazy town. So we explore some of that here in Di's Journey. So I wanted to look at not just the Greek system, although that's part of it, but about secret societies in general. I think this is at a small university in West Texas that will remain nameless. I'm not saying. But what a setting for secret societies, wide open spaces, and it's like the more I've read and the more I've researched, it's like around every corner there's something. It's like, whoa, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know about these cattle rustlers. I didn't know about this group of people, anyway. But I've been looking because I need a strong, historically, I write fiction. I base things on real life, but I would not name my character, specific character name. I would fictionalize the character. But I've really been trying to find the right person at the right time in history that would set up this kind of matriarchal secret society lineage, right? Haven't quite found it. As I told you, I don't sleep, so I'm up at 5 o'clock this morning in the lobby of the Barfield, and I'm talking to the woman at the counter, and she begins to tell me the history of the Duchess that built the Barfield, was an industrialist, wealthy, powerful, started going by her initials because nobody would do business with a woman. I said a lot of women writers do that too, because we're in 2025 and women writers don't always get the same respect in certain genres as men. And anyway, I was just like, oh my God. And so she was behind the counter and she was handing me, she's like, here, read this, or here, read this. If you come back at noon, Debbie will be here. And she'll take you into the secret room behind the speakeasy. I'm like, just shut your mouth, right? So one of the questions, what brought me to y'all today, it was sure as heck to meet y'all, but I think it was also to find out about this and give me a path. Do they do a leather essential oil or a dirt?
I'm sure. There's one that smells like dirt. Yeah.
Okay. My backyard, is that what that
Dirt, actually.
Dirt.
Because you can't find any of that one.
It all blew up here.
No. But anyway, so it's like, this has been the most enriching little bop up the highway to Amarillo. I've just met all these nice people and gotten inspired in so many ways. One thing some of my classes have said is, where do you find ideas? Where do you get inspiration? Does anybody struggle with inspiration, or are y'all the ones that it's like, I've got so many ideas, I can't even get them down on paper? What's y'all's experience with that?
Yeah, too many ideas. I just keep a running list, and when I get to read, I do the next one.
KJ, I told her about an idea that I had. She's a writer, friend of ours. Told KJ about an idea that I had, and it was about the 45th idea that I said, this is the one. And she goes, Lauren, she said, baby, this is really a good one. Just stop doing all this other stuff and you get on this and you write it to the end, and so sometimes that social connection too, people can hold you accountable for things that are your weaknesses. And mine is seeing things through. It's like I'll get super excited and I will have a hellacious first chapter of 20 different things picked up. Do you feel me? Okay.
Yes.
And you just sometimes have to say what moves you the most and see it through the end. Because writing, the feeling of having something, the feeling of getting to the end, when you get to type the end, it is so worth it.
Yeah. I finished a series, and I had finished the writing in December, but my editor wanted me to wait until the new year before I sent but it was finished.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll probably get an idea of what I want to write in a couple of years. You know, I'm not in a hurry. Well, I was selling some of my books in the store, and this woman came in, and as she was talking, and we were talking, just bing, I had the idea for the next book. And I couldn't believe it, but I thought, okay,
I'm really gonna
I'm rest for the weary, yeah.
Have y'all read Elizabeth Gilbert, Big Magic? I recommend it. If you are interested in creativity, Elizabeth Gilbert that wrote Eat, Pray, Love, which I don't like at all. I don't really like Elizabeth Gilbert's work, honestly, but I like what she has to say as a writer. Eat, Pray, Love, I'm like, bitch, if somebody paid me to go to Italy and Budapest and wherever, I could have done it too. This idea that, you know, oh, my life's falling apart, so I'm going to, you know, get on the train car and go to... A magazine paid for all of that, so it's a little bit hard for me to... But I do dig her philosophy on creativity, and she says that there are ideas that are floating around all the time. And it's another thing that my classes want to talk about is writer's block. Is it real or is it Memorex? So that's a whole other discussion that we could have about. I say it's really not real. It's really an excuse not to write. Picasso, one of my favorite quotes is, inspiration does exist, but it has to find you working. It's like you can be sitting at your computer and you can be writing, man, oh man, I sure don't know what to talk about today. Maybe I should think about my grocery list and where I can pick up some dirt essential oils. And then you'll go, the smell of the prairie as I passed by the cactus, blah, 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 blah. And you're off, because Elizabeth Gilbert's concept is that these ideas are floating around all the time, and that it will pick somebody to try and write on. It will say, I don't care that you're not going to write a book for 2 years. I've got this idea that I think you're perfect for. And she could either say, you know what, I'm here to receive it. I'm the person to do this. She can also say, no, now's not the time. I've got other things going on right now. It's not a priority for me to start on a new book. And the idea will say, okay, that's fine. I'll come back. And it'll go to Karen. And she has that choice to any of us, you know. And so there are ideas out there. And it's whether or not it's the right time, whether we accept that inspiration. I'm like you. I have ideas all the time. And so I'm like, go pick somebody else for something, because I don't have time to do all of this. But it's kind of interesting. The one thing that I've learned about writing is, and this is one of my helpful hints, at the end of the day, when you have finished your writing session, if you have a great idea, but it's time to make dinner or whatever, you write down enough of it to remind you, and then walk away and go write dinner. But give yourself that hint at the end of one session to pick up the next day, so you don't have to go through the, I'm writing my grocery list, so kind of give you, that's a little jump start. Okay, everybody okay here? What time is it?
That's a loaded question.
It's
11:26.
All right, I want to be respectful of y'all's time. And I've got a date with gal Debbie at the Barfield who's going to take me on a tour, so I got to go. I've got inspiration. We'll go through. I mean, I feel like we've talked a lot about some of these things, and to me that's more important than sticking to this. But we'll buzz through this real quick. Investigating what you want to write. I say 2 questions, and these are questions. They seem really simple, but really dig into them. If you don't know what you want to write, who are you? We all carry all these identities, right? These things that people label us. We're mom, we're dad, we're adjunct professor, I'm the marketing gal. They actually call me the dramatic one. I don't know why. I don't know where they got that. Who are you? But then a lot of times I find those labels that people label us with, they're not really how we see ourselves. It's like, I've been in the professional world too long to take much crap off of anybody, right? So I'm like, kiss off, you know. That people see me as being kind of mean, kind of short sometimes. I see myself as this incredibly kind, huge heart. I'll cry at the drop of a hat. I care so deeply. But I can't hang that out for everybody. I can hang that out with y'all because I know it's okay. But I can't hang that out for everybody. So sometimes, you know, who are you? And I mean, it would be interesting to do two lists. Who do people see you as? And who are you really on the inside? And then there's some subject matter stuff. I told y'all that I was a food columnist for a while. I'm a huge foodie. My husband is a huge foodie. He's from Louisiana. He's an incredible cook. So I love food. And I find that's a language all of its own. It's like, are you the one that everybody comes to wanting the recipes at Christmas? You know, are you the funny one? You know, are you the family historian? Some of those things can help you think about if you wanted to. And again, as experienced writers, don't get stuck in a rut. If you get stuck in a rut, try writing something totally different. Try writing something totally off the wall. I think that's one of the things that probably has kept me writing is that I'll finish one project and I'm like, nope, don't want to do that again anytime soon, and I'll jump to something else. And again, now that I know that that's the way my brain is wired, it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. But I instinctively was doing that to try and kind of comfort and soothe my mind that wanted to go all over the place. And then what do you like to read? My old folks in my classes have argued with me about this. One guy in particular, he wanted to do genealogy. His sister wanted him to write their family's story. She'd done all the genealogy work, and it was his turn to pick up what was lacking and get this thing written. And he said, well, that didn't work for me. He said, I like to read action adventure. I'm like, oh my goodness. Do you think that in your family's history, in this world, that there's not action and adventure? My gosh, you know? You go back and you look at some of these different periods in time, what was happening in the world, where were people living, you connect it to the history. There is a battle, there is an Indian war, there's something. He came back, next time I saw him, he was like, oh my God, I found out that my family was living in Tennessee during the Cherokee Indian Wars, blah, 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 and this and that. And I'm like, told you so. It's what you like to read. And we also, if we like to read, it's like, I was a Nancy Drew girl, right? So it's like the cozy mystery, I like to read that. So it appeals to me, and I know instinctively, because I've read so much of it, I kind of know what the structure should be. And yes, a good editor is critical to help you know the things that you don't know. But if you write in a genre that you like to read, I think it comes a little bit easier to most of us. Let me go back. Nope, Pamela's not going to go back. I thought this was one of the smartest things I ever said. Let passion, not pressure, guide you. I found when I realized that I didn't, and now this was in the room the day they asked me to do a author profile at our meeting and just talk about what I was working on. I just went in and went on a tear. I've been trying to write what everybody else has told me that I'm supposed to write, and I don't find any joy in it anymore. I'm done. Don't want to do it. I was on deadlines and people were yeah, and I was like, this isn't fun. I don't even want to sit down and write. All the joy was gone. And I said, to hell with it. I'm going to write what I want to write. I think there's a lot of pressure in this industry. If you haven't written a novel, you're not a real writer. Baloney. All it takes to be a real writer is to write. And that can be for yourself. It can be a letter to mom. It can be a beautiful crafted novel. It can be a newspaper article. It can be short. It can be a poem. It can be long. Don't put that pressure on yourself. if the pressure of deadlines, if you're working with an agent, with an editor, if that pressure feels bad to you, it will wear you down and it will steal the joy. Don't do it. Let passion, not pressure, guide you. You write what you want for whoever you want. I feel kind of strongly about that. Fiction versus nonfiction. Y'all are primarily fiction writers, so we're not even going to talk about this much. Every group that I talk to, it's a mix. I write both. I think nonfiction is easier for me. I like to reflect on how freaking bizarre the world is and write about it. You know, it's like, holy cow. I found this great quote, though, by Tom Clancy. The difference between fiction and reality, fiction has to make sense. When you read a novel, if it goes too far off tangent, people are like, what? And you will get reviews from people who are like, this is the biggest bunch of crap I have ever read. Whatever, it's based on a true story, you don't have to know it, whatever. The truth is stranger than fiction, and that's why I write both. That is by the world-renowned author, Cassel, Brownell. I love to write stories. I enjoyed writing this. This was easier for me than an art housekeeping. Actually, this is fiction because I don't know how to keep house. But I am a hell of a writer. And I listened to that, you know, I imagined a character that was a great housekeeper and also a devout Buddhist. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I knew I hated to keep house. I said to myself, there's got to be a better way, right? This sucks. And I found that if you could think about your daily round, housekeeping, chores, life, and take it to kind of a spiritual level, give it meaning. It's like, some people hate to iron. It's like, well, if you iron and you say a prayer over that piece of clothing that a member of your family is going to wear, you're like, okay, I can deal with that. So that's kind of what Zen art housekeeping is about.
I have a question.
Yes.
So in writing fiction and nonfiction, I've heard advice from, you know, publishers, agents, people in the industry saying like not basically to do both, like it's too hard to market and you're going to divide your demographics and all that.
Yeah.
What's your response to that?
I was working with an editor at one point, and I've struggled with the same thing, particularly, again, as a marketing person professionally. I'd be like, no, don't split your audience, don't do that. But I can't help, that's me. Doing a website, good God, it's a hell of an adventure, right, to try and do a website. So I start out on my webpage, laurencastle.com, if you want to go visit later. I start out with this quote, the truth is stranger than fiction, that's why I write both. And so I kind of lean into that. There's a part of me in everything that I write. If you write fiction, you're going to pop up in there. If you write nonfiction, you may be more visible. But it's like, I just try to connect that, telling stories. But an editor told me that he said, Lauren, you're a Renaissance woman. Just lean into it. Be okay with that. When people meet you, when people get to know you, when people read your work, they'll get that it does all make sense. It may be a harder sell. Again, I'm not trying to necessarily retire. I'm not trying to retire on my income from writing. It is challenging, and I'm jealous of people that really, really hone in. If I can get my Murder You series, it's supposed to be 4 books, if I can get that done, and it's a really cohesive series, I would probably pull that out and release it separately, promote it separately, and this would just be, oh, by the way, she's also done this. It is a challenge. I won't lie. But it worked for me. The art of memoir, again, I don't hear too many memoirists. I think you are a memoirist at heart. It is a very popular and profitable genre. I will say, in my experience, having said write whatever you want to write, I think in today's marketplace, you can make more money writing nonfiction. I think there's more markets for nonfiction. You can write for magazines, you can write for blogs, you can write for, but it's not about money. A memoir is not an autobiography. It is built around a very specific theme or a very specific point in time. You talked about writing about things when you were younger, and nobody would believe it. But it's not about, people confuse that memoir is, I was born, and that's not. That's an autobiography, and very few of us in this room are interesting enough to need an autobiography. Just telling you the truth, okay? Memoir, something that's cohesive. Must be written with honesty and authenticity. I think everything should, but boy, a memoir, if you're going to talk truth and things that you want to share that you've learned in your life, man, you have to be willing to really be honest. And I think that's sometimes hard for people in general today. As I'm aging, I find that I'm gaining more and more respect, and you can see it. I don't know if you don't have this experience. I can meet people, and I mean, people used to pull the wool over my eyes, but I can meet people now, and I can almost sense there's just something. They're right there. I want to be that person. I want to know those people. Karen was one of those people. These two ladies at Barfield at coffee this morning. I mean, anyway, that's the kind of person I want to be. That's the kind of writer I want to be. Okay. Bringing a family feud to life, we kind of addressed this. I'm working on an article right now for a food magazine, and it's my foodie family treat. And it's why do we cook this stuff on holidays? What in the world? Who taught you to boil crawfish? My husband's from Louisiana. His daddy taught him to boil crawfish. He's taught my son to boil crawfish. Where in the hell did we get this specific banana pudding recipe? And so it's really interesting. And then to ask questions about, where did this recipe, and it turns out it was from great-great-grandma Food Nanny, and my husband started telling me stories about things that he did as a child with his grandparents. They would go out on Good Friday, and fish on the side of this river, and then they would skin the fish, fry them, and that was what they did every Good Friday. And so that's one of his fondest childhood memories. I'd never even heard about it until I started asking him about food. So food drives a lot of, I like food. Business or writing, I'd come back and spend a whole nother day. We'll talk about that some other time. Traditional versus self-publishing. I've done both. I had a very positive traditional publishing experience, which I know a lot of people don't say. I had an absolutely horrific vanity publishing experience, and I would kill this woman if I ever saw her. I mean, I hate her. Not because of what she did to me, it's because of what she did to all the other writers that she worked with. And people who take advantage of people who are trying to share their art with the world have a special place in hell, as far as I'm concerned. So, never pay anybody to publish your stuff. These anthologies, $10 for our anthologies and stuff that contribute to our groups, that's not what I'm talking about. I got a call the other day. We'd like to talk to you about your book, Dying to Donate, on the whatever the hell radio show. Call us back. I was like, cool. Looked it up online. She'll interview me for $3,000. Don't do that. Nothing's worth it. Nothing is worth that. Non-traditional markets. I'm a big fan of Substack. Does anybody start writing Substack? Okay, we'll talk about that another time. Okay. It is kind of the next iteration of newsletters. We get told that we have newsletters and everything. Substack is a platform that has kind of made newsletters a little bit easier. Some people love it, some people hate it. To me, with a young, new writer, it's a chance to give yourself a deadline and write to a deadline however often you want to, which is good practice. Look at a theme, something that interests you. It's also just a hell of a fun place to go and read. If you can think it, there is a Substack about it. So maybe take a look. It's a chance to get clips. My old people were like, how do I get published? How do I make money? I'm like, you gotta have published clips. And they're like, well, how do I get published clips if I haven't written anything? And I'm like, well, welcome to all of our world. That's what we do. It's a chance to have your name published and for somebody to see that you can write on a topic, that you can, and you can monetize it if you want. But, okay, we'll put that in our pocket to talk, have another, maybe we need to do a business of writing. I would love to bring KJ up to do a business of writing. She's
been here before.
Okay.
It's been quite a number of years.
Is it time again?
Probably, 8
Yeah.
or 9.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so funny because that's what my old folks, I said, what was missing from this? And they said, I really would want you to go more in depth into the business of writing. I'm like, well, that's not the fun part. And KJ and I are like kind of two sides of the coin. It's like, she's a great writer, but she really digs all of this stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to do whatever. Non-traditional markets. Again, I wrote plays and had them produced. Greatest joy of my life was not seeing my book completed. It was seeing my play. Words, characters that I wrote come to life. The joy that we see in our characters in our books, they were like on the stage and they were saying stuff that I wrote, and I was just like, oh, it was the highest of highs. Don't know why I did it, just what the hell, right? It was there. Money, to AI or not to AI, again, a whole day. I believe that AI is not the threat that feels like it is. And I feel like if we're not going to let it take over all of our creative jobs and lives, we need to learn how to utilize it for some positives. I'm thinking use AI to do some of the businessy stuff that we don't like to do to free up our time to be creative, because we all hate to market, right? We want to write. We don't want to have to go out and market it. So it's a sticky wicket. And I just, a lot of people who I really respect say, if you try to ignore it, that's when you're going to be out on the street looking for a job. We need to accept it. Well, I don't know. It's scary. Social media, yes, hate it. Instagram sucks, hate it. I know I need it. That's one of my goals for the future, like this summer, is to really deal with it. And I mean, again, I'm a marketing director. It's like, I know how to market the College of Ed. I don't know how to make it work for me as a small businesswoman. You know, it's like, bleh. Okay, but yes, you need it. Okay. Boom, we're done. Swear to God. God, I'm so sorry, y'all.
No, you're
I hope we've had fun. Are we enjoying ourselves? Are we okay. These are a few of my favorites. One of the wormholes we can all fall down is we can spend so much damn time reading about writing that we don't ever write. We can research so much about history that we never write our historical novels. Doggone. Pick a few of your favorites and then let it go. I mean, my gosh. On Writing by Stephen King, again, like Elizabeth Gilbert, I'm not a Stephen King fan. His book on writing is one of the best I've ever read because he talks about his process and creativity and stuff. It's not about, ooh, scary monsters. It's about writing.
He reads the audiobook of it, and that's really
Is
good
it?
to listen to.
Yeah. One of my all-time favorites. Honestly, Will Write for Food is another one of my favorites. Yes, I've said I'm a food writer. This is my copy of Will Write for Food. It is about food writing. One of the best books about just the business of writing. You can take the word food and fill in whatever topic you write about. It is just a fantastic book about the business of writing, how to brainstorm, things to think about, exercises throughout. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. I just got turned on to this recently. Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art. This is all about writer's block and what a bunch of crap it is. It is just page after page of short little things that say, when you get to the end of a project, resistance is what he calls it. Resistance is going to become vicious. You're going to think of every way to waste time and not finish a project under the sun. It's BS. Keep writing. So again, just an easy, if you're having a tough time, great. I also like his writing Wednesdays if you're lazy. He can tell you that it's all procrastination is BS and resistance in your inbox on Right Wednesdays. Jane Friedman, we all know, she's awesome. Great, great, great stuff. FamilySearch.org, Ancestry.com, that was for anybody that wanted to look at genealogy stuff. Writer's Digest. Again, I try not to just spend money on writing stuff. I would love to have the subscription of the full thing, but honestly, only the weekly newsletter is about all I have time to read, and it's always chock full of stuff. So, you know, Hope Clark's Funds for Writers, it's a great resource. She's just trusted, she's been around forever, and will list anthologies, contests, projects, stuff coming up, and just give you good writing hints. So I like her. Again, I could go down the rabbit hole. I brought some other books. I mean, those are really the ones that I love. Writing Down the Bones, Natalie Goldberg. A lot of people really, really love this. The OG, Ray Bradbury, Zen and the Art of Writing. I've heard this is a fantastic book. I bought it because it came so highly recommended to me, but I've not had time to read it. Self-Editing for Fiction Writers. And like I said, I'll leave these up here for a while if y'all want to mix and mingle and chat. The Artist Way, is anybody a huge proponent? Have y'all?
I do morning pages every day.
Do you?
Yes.
I find it so hard to do
I
that.
do every day.
Somebody else have a feeling, something about it?
Me too.
Yeah,
Now I
write
will
for-
say, I do
I
not,
every
no,
morning.
Tim,
Every
listen,
morning.
I do not finish the book.
I said, that's a good idea there in that chapter 1.
Yeah, basically. No, I
I
read
have
it
that
like
book.
probably halfway through,
It's a good
and then when
book.
it started getting hard and confronting me, I stopped reading it.
Karen, I'm with you. Same.
But I do the morning pages.
Well, I tried. I did that for a few days, and I'm like, this is hard.
Well, yeah.
This is hard.
I got so depressed I wanted to kill myself was what I thought when I was doing morning pages.
Made me feel like a total loser.
There's no reason why they can't be night pages.
Well, good, right. Totally true.
You're
there
saying
shouldn't
the
be-
same thing, right, every day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just didn't work for me to write about myself and my own.
Oh,
thoughts and
sometimes I write
feelings.
complete nonsense.
Okay.
Sometimes I write like a snippet from a short story. I've developed a character in my.
Okay. Now
It's
that is
not always like self-journaling, self-reflective journaling. Sometimes it is. A lot of times it is. But sometimes I go, "Ugh, I have to write 3 pages this morning. What am I going to write?" And I've literally written just word association before, just to get my 3 pages. And it's still, it's that ritual.
Yeah.
And it takes time.
There are no rules.
It's
If it works for you, yeah. I just read raves about this book, and people are like, "It's changed my whole life."
But
Like
I
the whole
couldn't
12-week
do all
thing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I just don't know. So I mean, it's like I throw it out there because there are people that think it's so awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Last but certainly not least,
She's
this is
written
my
several
parting
books.
thought. This is the end of the road, Rodney. What is the story only you can write? I tell my old folks, and again, I told you I give them permission. I said, don't worry about punctuation. Don't worry about capitalization. I can hire an editor to fix all of that. I cannot tell the story that only you can tell. And they're just like, not punctuate. And I'm like, God bless America, just forget it. I'm like, 5-paragraph essay, forget it. You know, they're like, oh my God. But then they love it and they feel free to put what they want on paper without all the rules they were always taught. What's the story only you can write? I'm Lauren Cassel Brownell. Thank you very much. I know I've taken all your time. If I hadn't, I would want y'all to do this more. This is a QR code. I'd love your feedback if you have a minute to give it to me because I want these to be better. I want to know what you want more of. I hear business. I'm seeing that that's important. I get it. This is my website. Those are my social mediums. I'd love for y'all to reach out and get in touch with me if you want to continue this conversation because I'm about connection and I think y'all are terrific and you're right up the road and I'd like the chance to get to know and work with y'all more in the future. So feel free to reach out to me. Let me know what I can do to make your lives better and we'll get KJ to come up, and Matt's son will come, and we'll all go to Barfield and stay this vacation.
Matt just comes up here regularly.
I know he does. Thank y'all so much for your time. I'm sorry I went over. Sharing with me.
Big thank you to